On the last day of Hanukkah, December 10th, 2018, one of the Bible's biggest prophecies was fulfilled.
The time that we're living in the last days happened on Monday. The last day of Hanukkah. This last Monday was a prophetic day. It was the greatest prophetic event since the destruction of the temple in AD 70. It brought us now into the final phase of the end of time. This last Monday was the biggest prophetic fulfillment to say these are the last days of the last days of the last days.
Let's look back at prophecies that have been fulfilled that will lead to the rebuilding of the temple.
This is a historic day. Jerusalem has been the capital of the Jewish people for 3,000 years. It's been the capital of Israel for nearly 70 years. It was here that our temple stood, our kings ruled, our prophets preached. Jerusalem has been the focus of our hopes, our dreams, our prayers for 3 millennia. From every corner of the earth, our people yearn to return to Jerusalem, to touch its golden stones, to walk its hallowed streets. So it's rare to be able to speak of new and genuine milestones in the glorious history of this city. Yet today's pronouncement by President Trump is such an occasion. We're profoundly grateful for the President for his courageous and just decision to recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and to prepare for the opening of the U.S. Embassy here.
Almost immediately after declaring statehood in 1948, Israel designated the city of Jerusalem as its capital. The capital the Jewish people established in ancient times. So important. On December 6, 2017, at my direction, the United States finally and officially recognized Jerusalem as the true capital of Israel.
On May 14th, 2018, the American Embassy opened in Jerusalem.
President Trump, who made this all a reality, could not be here today, but did record a message to honor us at this ceremony. Please watch and listen.
Today we officially opened the United States Embassy in Jerusalem. Congratulations. It's been a long time coming. This entire nation is a testament to the unbreakable spirit of the Jewish people. The United States will always be a great friend of Israel and a partner in the cause of freedom and peace. We wish Ambassador Friedman good luck as he takes up his office in this beautiful Jerusalem embassy, and we extend a hand in friendship to Israel, the Palestinians, and to all of their neighbors. May there be peace. May God bless this embassy. May God bless all who serve there, and may God bless the United States of America.
On August 28th, 2018, the red heifer was born. On August 28th, 2018, a perfect red heifer was born in the land of Israel. The red heifer candidate is being raised and specifically cared for under the auspice of the Temple Institute's Raising the Red Heifer in Israel program. The red heifer brings the promise of reinstating biblical purity to the world and the rebuilding of the Holy Temple. On December 10th, 2018, the last day of Hanukkah, the altar for the third temple was dedicated.
148 nations made a resolution last Friday to say the Jewish people cannot go to Temple Mount.
Ahead of the Hanukkah celebrations this week, the United Nations General Assembly in New York last Friday approved 6 anti-Israel resolutions out of the typical 20 or so that are passed every year by the UNGA against the Jewish state. But this time around, again, none of the 6 resolutions condemned Hamas or other terror groups, and indeed 2 of them completely ignored any Jewish ties to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem's Old City. The Temple Mount, of course, is the site of the first and second Jewish temple, and it's considered the holiest place on earth for Jews. But the temple's ruins today lie beneath the Haram al-Sharif Mosque, which is why Jews worldwide come to pray at the western wall of the Temple Mount complex. No Jewish prayers allowed by Muslims or Israeli officials atop the Temple Mount. and offenders are often arrested. Now, the two main resolutions regarding Jerusalem passed with around 150 votes each, and they both condemn Israel's sovereignty in Jerusalem. Additionally, neither of the resolutions' texts acknowledge Jewish or Christian ties to the Temple Mount, calling it only by the Muslim name Haram al-Sharif. Noah Furman, the Israeli deputy permanent representative at the UN, said that, quote, "This omission was deliberate," and shows yet another instance of the Palestinians' refusal to recognize the proven historical connection between Judaism, Christianity, the Temple Mount, and Jerusalem as a whole. The international community must stop participating in such blatant denial of history. You must not permit these blatant attempts to delegitimize Israel, end quote. As for the other four resolutions, they challenged Israel's annexation of the Golan Heights, called on Israel to return to negotiations on the basis of pre-1967 borders, and shored up support for Palestinian committees and divisions within the UN. Only the United States, Canada, and Australia voted with Israel against all 6 resolutions, with United States Deputy Political Coordinator Leslie Orderman saying that this trend is unacceptable.
Against 148 nations that signed a resolution in the United Nations, they dedicated the temple on Temple Mount. Because it's not about the will of the United Nations, the Security Council, not the will of the replacement church, dead churches. It's about what God said. All the vessels of the temple have been prepared. Hear me. All the vessels of the temple have been prepared. Some of you have been with me to Jerusalem. You've gone to the Temple Institute. You saw that all the vessels of the temple have been prepared.
So yeah, what we've got here is this new Sanhedrin and the dedication of the third temple altar, which is unbelievable to see. We thought this was fake news, friends. We didn't realize this was even real news. We thought it was one of those weird articles on the internet, but it turns out 10:30 a.m. this morning in Jerusalem, we actually have a dedication ritual for the altar, sacrificial altar of the third temple, the day after Hanukkah, the Feast of Dedication. We have this dedication ceremony by the new Sanhedrin.
And where does it speak about the altar in the Bible? Let's go to Ezekiel 43:13.
These are the measurements of the altar in cubits. The cubit is 1 cubit and a handbreadth. The base 1 cubit high and 1 cubit wide, with the rim all around is edge of 1 span.
And we are looking at that altar right there. 2,000 years ago, prophesied that altar.
The altar is the first piece that will lead to the rebuilding of the temple.
In my office, I have Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu holding the diagrams of the third temple, saying, God has raised me up to build the third temple. Not only is it the Temple Institute, the Sanhedrin, the Prime Minister himself believes in it, the whole nation believes in it, and God believes in it.
Where does the Bible prophesy about the building of the third temple? First, we'll start with Daniel 8:12.
Because of transgression, an army was given over to the horn to oppose the daily sacrifices, and he cast truth down to the ground.
Note that the angel Gabriel tells Daniel that they will take away the daily sacrifice. The daily sacrifice cannot be taken away until the temple is built.
How long will this vision be concerning the daily sacrifices and the transgression of desolation?
The Antichrist will take away the daily sacrifice after the first 3.5 years of his reign.
But in the middle of the week, he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering.
Now, if this tabernacle of David is of God, then God should tell us where he's going to put it. Because there is the Dome of the Rock on Temple Mount. So what is he going to do? The temple, his temple, the third temple, will be built next to the Dome of the Rock. Where is the temple going to be? In the peace agreement, it's going to be next to the Dome of the Rock.
Where in the scriptures does it tell you that the temple can be built beside the Dome of the Rock?
Then I was given a reed like a measuring rod, and the angel stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of God, the altar, and those who worship there. But leave out the court which is outside the temple, and do not measure it, for it has been given to the Gentiles.
Now hear me. God knew that there would be the Dome of the Rock on Temple Mount, a profane thing. And he said the temple, his temple, the third temple, will be built next to the Dome of the Rock. Where is the temple going to be? In the peace agreement, it's going to be next to the Dome of the Rock. Temple Mount shall be shared in the peace agreement. We know how the peace agreement is going to be defined. It's going to define Temple Mount as corpus separatum. That means a separated place, separated body that's going to be separated from the politics of the Palestinians and the politics of the Israelis. It's going to be a separate entity that's going to take charge of this holy site in Israel. And when they take control of that holy site, they're going to guarantee the Jews to worship on Temple Mount. They're going to guarantee the Palestinians, Islamics, to worship on Temple Mount. They're going to guarantee the security of the Christians to worship on Temple Mount. That is part of the agreements that are being negotiated, a shared Temple Mount. The next big thing is the 7-year peace treaty being negotiated right now by Jared Kushner and our president.
The Bible teaches us about the 7-year peace treaty that the Antichrist will confirm.
Then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week.
This covenant that the Antichrist confirms will be a peace treaty.
And in his place shall arise a vile person, to whom they will not give the honor or royalty, but he shall come in peaceably, and seize the kingdom by intrigue.
This agreement will allow the Palestinians to have their own land, and in it they will allow the Jews to rebuild the third temple.
Thus he shall act against the strongest fortresses with a foreign god, which he shall acknowledge, and advance its glory, and he shall cause them to rule over many, and divide the land for gain.
During the first 3.5 years of reign of the Antichrist, the world will prosper.
Because of transgression, an army was given over to the horn to oppose the daily sacrifices, and he cast truth down to the ground. He did all this and prospered. Then the king shall do according to his own will. He shall exalt and magnify himself above every god, shall speak blasphemies against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the wrath has been accomplished.
After the first 3.5 years of prosperity and peace, the Antichrist will stop the daily sacrifice and take over the third temple, declaring himself as God.
Then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. But in the middle of the week, he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering. And on the wings of abominations shall be one who makes desolate, even until the consummation which is determined is poured out on the desolate. And out of one of them came a little horn which grew exceedingly great towards the south, towards the east, and towards the glorious land. And it grew up to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the hosts and some of the stars to the ground, and trampled them. He even exalted himself as high as the prince of the host. And by him the daily sacrifices were taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down.
How awesome is our God? I mean, how awesome is our God? I mean, how awesome is our God? Do you understand the bigness of what I'm talking about? 2,000 years ago, that altar is prophesied, seen by John on the island of Patmos. He speaks about it, and now you're looking at it on your television. You understand what it's saying? It's saying, this is that. The final days are here. In 2018, here we are, the beginning of 2019 and 2020 elections, and moving on to the showdown. You know, I'm preaching to finish the king's business. I'm preaching to end all things, to bring the end of all things, to prepare a mighty generation that's going to celebrate together with the Jewish people.
So celebrate the birth of the new season and the birth of the new kingdom church that will teach the gospel of the kingdom, the gifts of the Spirit, and God's love. Did you know that God put a call on your life for this day and this time and this generation? It was determined before you were even born. So seek your call of God. It was meant for this day and this time and this generation. So celebrate the birth of the new season and the final kingdom harvest and the fulfillment of scriptures that will allow our Lord and Savior to return. God bless.